Hello everyone, this is my vlog at Northeastern University in Boston, Massachusetts at my pre-college program in modern physics. So it lasted from 23rd of July to the 5th of August, and so the first day we just checked in and I explored all around my common room and also my dorm as well as the dining room. And then soon after we got started and we went to have our first ever introduction. That's when we split up into our different groups. On the first night, which was Monday night, we had a scavenger hunt all around the campus, and this was really fun because we got to explore everywhere around. And the next day we had to wake up at 7, and this was the day of official classes. So we had breakfast at the dining hall, and then we got started into our different groups. So I was in physics, and we went to do a little bit of lab. We explored all around, and we had a little graduate student who helped us. And so Northeastern is in between a little station, and so we had to always travel across that. And then we explored around Northeastern with my roommate later that afternoon. To look at some bookstores, then we also went to some of the most famous like Panera and also some of the other stores and restaurants. Because I was flying in on the first day, I was actually quite late on the first day, and my roommate thought she didn't have a roommate. The next day was also another day of lab, so we went back into our lab and we went to do an experiment with a graduate student, and then we went and had lunch at Panera. Later that afternoon, I explored the NEU bookstore with my other friend. So how the pre-college program works is that we would have these mentors who were basically undergrad students that would help us all throughout our entire stay, but then we would attend university classes throughout the day taught by university professors. Our university professor of physics was actually the dean of physics. So the admissions officers weren't really involved, but they were there sometimes. After the lab on the next day, we went out to Newberry Street. So Newberry Street was a street near Northeastern, and there were so many different stores and shops there. I saw a lot of actually Thai stores around that area, and these are some of the pictures that I had. And also that evening we had another dinner out. My roommate wasn't in the same program as me, so I came home to her like this, so I didn't not know what she was doing throughout the day. We had another lab on the next day, and then this time I ate my Thai mama noodles, and so everyone was very shocked because they didn't know about this. And then we had a little movie night, and then I mixed up with some of the other friends from the other store. Plus on this day we went to Harvard Square. Harvard Square was a huge square where we visited the actual Harvard University itself. We also visited around like the bookstores and some of the other programs. We had donuts on that day, and it was like a sponsored trip or something. And then I visited some of the libraries, and actually some of the students who had friends at Harvard was also doing like a summer program there. They came to see us. So basically all throughout Northeastern pre-college program we would explore all around. We went to different locations almost every single day after classes. So classes would end around 4:30, and then after that it was either free time or you would sign up to go to one of these events. Obviously I went to every single one of them because I would not have this experience ever again. So our dorms were separated randomly, and most of the times our dorm mates will not be in the same program as us. And so one of my dorm mates was actually from another program. My dorm mate was on the entrepreneurial program. There was a lot of girls in this particular session that were from the entrepreneurial program, but then the other one of the girls was in one of the AI programs, and she had a friend who was attending a pre-college program at Harvard, but this time it was more like credit oriented, whereas the pre-college program that I attended at Northeastern was not credit oriented. So if it's credit oriented, it's a lot more expensive and it's a lot more rigorous because you have to obviously get grades, and this actually counts towards your marks in university. However, the ones that we attended were more like fun and was more exploration than actual grade oriented. I actually thought that was quite nice because we were able to relax a lot more, and obviously this was my first time in Boston, so I didn't even know about all of these things, and so this was just very new, and we were able to explore Boston a lot during this time. So one thing about Boston's entire train system was that there was a lot of homeless people and a lot of beggars, and the train stations really do smell horrible. So after this day, it was like pretty relaxing for the next couple of days after we went shopping, because I did not go to Bodeborg until Saturday. So Bodeborg was this like exploration sort of like breakout escape room sort of simulation. So every single time we had an event, I tried to mix with another group of people from a different group that were either in a different program or something like that. And I think that really broadened my circles. So when we got back to Northeastern, it was flooding because there was so much rain, and so we had to go through the tunnel. So I thought the tunnel was like a whole train station, but it was actually just like the underpath of Northeastern. And after this, we had a karaoke night. This was Saturday night, so everyone was like all hyped up, and a lot of girls went out actually. There were lots of boys and girls that just, they were mingling, but yeah, we had a karaoke night, and I stayed there for a very long time because after this, I obviously had to go upstairs to sleep. So once again, as I said, my roommate is from a different program, so she and I were kind of in different friend groups, but we all just came together, and it was just very fun to mix with like different groups of people, because the friends I was closer with were some of them were like games and reality, virtual AI, something like that, so they weren't all necessarily from the physics program. After lunch on Sunday, we went to the aquarium. So the aquarium was one of the most famous aquariums in Boston area. Again, we used the train stations and we just had to follow our mentors. So like I said, our mentors were the undergraduate students, and so they pretty much knew around Northeastern. Many of the Northeastern students were not international, so most of them were actually American, and so I had a lot of American culture all throughout this entire program. I would say I met around 1 or 2 international students, but almost everyone was from the States. So either they were like ethnically American or some of them were like mixed American, but they were all from the United States. Every single time we had an event, I would go with a different gang, and so this particular time I was all going with the physics group, and then I went to mingle with the virtual reality AI group. I just wanted to come in here to talk about my physics program for a second. So my physics program at Northeastern was very, very in-depth. There was a lot of knowledge that I had never known about before that I had learned during this. A lot of people that were in the similar program as me, they wanted to go into physics in the future, or they were decided to go into Northeastern in the future. I met a lot of athletes or like league people, so people that were like legacy, and they were going to go to Northeastern right after this. And so a lot of these people already knew what they were planning to do in university, and they like knew exactly because either their parents were in that field or they attended this school in the past. There were only 2 international students in my modern physics program. There were around 30 people in our program, and there was me and another person who were from abroad, and so we were not sure exactly where we want to go into, but obviously we really liked the area of physics. And so in this physics program, I realized that it was just super rigorous. There was a lot of academic things, and I felt like it could have been credit oriented because it was just so much content and knowledge that I had never known about before. The labs we did was so similar to the actual graduate students lab, so we were actually helping him with his lab, and so that kind of helped us and gave us like an introduction into physics and into like what we could be doing if we were to study physics at Northeastern. So physics at Northeastern is ranked actually pretty high in the United States. However, it's not like the best in its field, but it's like one of the best, and I would say like in the Boston area or in the Massachusetts area, it's ranked like really, really high, along with like Harvard, Tufts, all of those other schools. Initially, actually, I chose to do entrepreneurial, but then that timing didn't work, and there was another entrepreneurial program during this time, but I didn't want to do that because I was doing already like another like international relations program, so I felt that entrepreneurial was too similar to like diplomacy and international relations, and so I chose to do physics because I was also really interested in this. So it was either between physics or like virtual reality and games, and I think I preferred physics more because I preferred that subject more, and I felt like it was like more of a basis. We did actually touch upon like how to create games and how to create like deep AI, like deep like machine learning, and all those things in physics class, and so I felt like physics covered like a really broad range. So there were some like topics like astrophysics, nuclear physics, and things about like climate change, all about physics, like all like how physics can help the world. It was just very in depth, also very, very unique, the course. For me, obviously, it was really unique because I never actually went to Boston or things like this area in the United States. And so when I came here, it was just kind of very new, and I wanted to explore every single thing. Actually, on the weekends, I could have stayed home, but I wanted to explore, and I wanted to see if I wanted to see both the students actually did stay in the dorms and just hung out with their friends or just hung out themselves. So I just felt like that was like a wasted opportunity, and I really done that. So during this time, I hung out with some of the kids from games and reality. So yeah, and like I said, every single time we went to an event, I would mingle with a different group because I wanted to have new experiences, new friends, and learn about new things. One of the girls said like they were from Taiwan, but then ever since they were young, they've been living here. And there was another girl who was from Hong Kong and had the same situation with her. Boston train system was very confusing at first to me, but I felt like it really helped. Many people were saying that the Boston train station is so much better than some like the New York train station. After that, we just got lunch again, and then we had another karaoke night. Actually, we were not supposed to have karaoke on this day, but everyone just really loved it, and so everyone just continued to have karaoke nights. Karaoke nights really brought us together, so I was singing in this as well. That's why I'm seeing like the whole group. Like this was all the physics and like virtual reality groups that were all singing on stage. Week it was like our final week for us, and we had again back into learning. So I studied at some of the libraries, and this was me traveling across to get to Northeastern's admissions. This was a session on how the financial aid and admission system worked in Northeastern, and later that night we went out to Boston Commons, and Boston Commons was like one of the parks that was really close to Northeastern, and it was just one of the places that many people went. We saw lots of people from like everywhere there. It was like right in the center. The Northeastern metro station is really good because it gets us like, it can get us to anywhere in like a really short period of time. You just have to pay like a certain amount, I think, per stop. I didn't understand how it worked at first, but it made sense after a while, because you have to buy a ticket, and then like it either works like unlimited if you pay for like $10 I think or so, but then if you like only want like a couple rides, you have to pay every ride, and every ride is like $2 or something, so it was a bit expensive if you pay per ride, but if you get like a ticket for like a whole day, it's pretty cheap actually. So yeah, every single time we went out for an outing, we could actually choose our groups, and so I just chose randomly. I just chose like whatever group I did not experience with before. So every single time I would approach like a new group, and I'll be like, hi, can I hang out with you guys? It was just really fun like that, because I could mix with new people, I could see new people. It was just really nice for me to be able to do that. Once we got back, we had a little picnic at the park in front of Northeastern. So it was in Northeastern University. It was just like the field in front, and we got food from the vending machines. Eastern gave us these like Hussy dollar cards where we could use the dollars that were on the cards. I actually should have used that to buy like medicine or something like that, because we could use that to buy honestly anything, but I used it instead to buy food, and I had a whole shopping spree at the end of this vlog. Like I said, the Northeastern campus is surrounding around the Ruggles train station, and so we have to cross it every single time we get from one place to another. And so our breakfast hall was actually at International Village, but all of our teaching and everything was on the other side, International Village. And so we had to cross the train station every single time we wanted to get across, because that was the shortest way. Otherwise, we have to go for a huge long walk. One of the most popular restaurants, it was called Tate's, I think. It was very expensive, but it also had this really aesthetic vibe. This next afternoon, we went to North End, and we had this really amazing souffle or something. I don't know what it's called. But yeah, I heard from some of the girls that actually some of them did not want to do physics, but then they had to be placed into this program because the entrepreneurial program was like too big. The entrepreneurial program was one of the most popular programs, but obviously I did not want to take that. Most of these students were the class of 2024, and so we're graduating the next year, and a lot of them were like geniuses from like California, and they wanted to go to Caltech, or like geniuses from Connecticut, and they wanted to go to like Yale and those like really big name schools. And I just thought it was really interesting hanging out with them, because these are like their way that they're applying to university is so different from here in Thailand, obviously, and so we get like such a unique experience. I would say the way they're talking about universities did not feel like so much of a reach as it is when I'm talking about applying to US universities from China or from Thailand. Here in Thailand, many people are talking about like applying to like Chulalongkorn University or like Mahidol University as if they were like Yale and like Harvard. Like it was like the same level, but just in like a different university. Like it didn't feel like it was that difficult for them to get to Harvard or get to Yale or get to Northeastern even. It was just so after that, we went back to our dorms. It was like the last couple of days in Northeastern, so I really wanted to explore everywhere. And so then we went to Sunset at Charles River. Sunset at Charles River is kind of like the grade 12 sunset that everyone does like at every single school when they're in Boston, because a lot of the friends that I met who like went to Boston, went to like Boston public schools, they actually went to like Sunset at Charles for their grade 12 sunsets as well. We have something similar here too, but it was more like sunrise at like a river or at like a mountain here in Thailand. So it was like, it's really similar. So I knew about this concept, but I didn't know it was like this beautiful and it was like this similar. So you can see that right across the bank. It's like MIT's right across over there, and Boston is like quite city oriented, so there were a lot of big name shops, big name like stores that were around here. I actually came to like this area with my mom after the program ended because we wanted to go like TJ Maxx and we wanted to go shopping. So it was like all of the main city centers that were all in this area. So right across was like the universities, but all around here was also other businesses, other big stores. I wanted to also talk a little bit about the financial aid that was available at Northeastern. So we had a session on financial aid and applying to Northeastern, and so the admissions officers, they were the ones that were actually there, and they were talking about how mostly they were targeted towards like US students, and so a lot of them, you know, obviously wanted to go to Northeastern already, but there were a couple of international students like myself and like one or two others that were there listening as well. Every single night we would normally supposed to sleep at like 10. There was like a really strict curfew because obviously it was like a more financial offices oriented, or like more admissions offices oriented, whereas compared to like a lot of the other programs that were not pre-college, they were not as strict. But every single time we would actually sleep at like 12 or 1 because we were doing work either in our rooms, or sometimes one of our friends, one of the girlfriends, would actually come back a bit later because they were hanging out with like a boys room or something like that. But yeah, for Husky cards, I want to talk a little bit about that because Husky cards, there are dollars in them, so we can use that to spend on anything. And so we did not actually just spend our own money outside of that because obviously it was included in like the program fees. Like certain stores that you can use the Husky cards at, so not every single store were accepting Husky cards. I remember once there was one of the stores that actually did not accept Husky cards, but I already bought it, but I didn't know that they didn't accept it because apparently the machine wasn't functioning. I had to pay like 411 baht, which was really expensive, but there was like, it was like only $10 something, but it's just converting it to baht was really expensive. Yeah, once we got back, we just walked around, and this was kind of like the view around Northeastern University. The buildings you see to the left, we never visited those because we weren't allowed to visit like this area because it was like, I think, more for graduate studies. And the final day came, and this was our trip to MIT. So the trip to MIT was kind of like a finishing for our physics program because obviously MIT is really STEM focused and it's really similar to what we did in our physics courses. So we visited MIT and we visited the program called IFE. So this was like a mix between Tufts, Harvard, Northeastern, or the area of physics and AI research. So with this program, there's actually a summer school there as well, but there was like more like really STEM focused. So, but we had like a session with some of like the mentors and fellows that were working at IFE, and so it was like just really nice hearing about them. Obviously the final night, and so we ran out of Husky dollars, but then we did like a stuff a Husky, so we couldn't eat at the cafeteria because the cafeteria closed before we got back. And so this was like the final view outside my dorm, and the stuff a Husky was kind of like the final like creating like a Husky because Husky was like the mascot for Northeastern, and so we were just creating this just like as a thing to take away with us. This was how the cafeteria looked. This is where I ate every single day, and this is how our dorm looked. I really loved our dorm. I shared it with one other person. We also had like suite mates, and so like I said, like my dorm mate was not from the same program as me. She was in the entrepreneurial program, and they actually had like a presentation or something. And so this was us checking out. We had to go and get tickets because I had to actually go to MIT for an interview, and then I came back again. So this was me getting on the bus, and then I went for this interview at MIT, and then I came back, and I was really grateful because one of my Taiwanese friends, she stayed back in Northeastern, and she just helped like look after my luggage whilst I came back. So I'm really grateful to her, and like it's just so nice having people like that. This was like the final view before I went to Ruggles with my luggage, and I had to say like emotional goodbye to some of my friends. And I went to South Station because my mom was meeting me there, and so this was us traveling by bus, and then we went to stay at a hostel because the reason why we were staying for a couple more days was because afterwards I had another program at New Haven at Yale, and so we had to stay a couple of days at the hostel before I could transition and move to New Haven. We took a bus to New Haven, but this was kind of like the tour around the hostel. The hostel we stayed at was actually pretty safe. We were sharing the room with like 4 other people, so it was a bit weird, but it was like the first time I ever experienced this. But I absolutely love my experience here in Northeastern, so thank you so much. And now it's time for New Haven. Bye.